Hey everyone, Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we did Judges 18. Judges 18 follows directly after 17. You'll have to remember last week when we did Judges 17, it talks about a guy named Micah. And Micah from the tribe of Ephraim had made for himself idols and appointed his son as a priest, and then he appointed a Levite as a priest to serve these idols. And all of this was being done in order, or not in order to, but rather in spite of the covenant commands, right? He's not breaking them on purpose, but he's breaking them. And it shows how far they've fallen. You see kind of the superstition that's kind of taken over Israel by this point, not only in the fact that they're worshiping other gods, but in the fact that they believe that just having a certain person do something means the Lord is going to bless you. So you'll notice if you look at chapter 18 of the book of Judges, it starts in a very similar way to where we have seen 17 going. It has this one refrain, right? In those days, Israel had no king. This is repeated a lot near the end of the book of Judges, and it's to basically replace the previous cycle stuff that we saw earlier. So remember how it would be like Israel did again what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and then the cycle would end with the judge reigning for so many years and freeing them, and then he would die, and then it would start all over again. Well, here, in each of these narratives, all of these begin with, in those days, Israel had no king. And there is kind of no resolution. It's just showing us how bad things have gotten. And so, in another place, right, so you have Micah setting up his shrine with this Levite. In another place, you have the Danites, so the tribe of Dan. And this is a tribe that failed to fulfill their conquest, so they didn't have any land. It's because they, and that's what it states at the beginning, right? They had not yet come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. So they're looking around, and they're looking for a place to take. So the Danites do what their ancestors did. This might remind you of the book of Numbers when the Israelites send spies into Canaan to see what it's looked like, and they come back and they're all scared, right? Well, here you actually see the opposite. They send spies into the land of Ephraim, and they spend the night with Micah, and they recognize the Levite who's there, and so they talk with him, and so they get him to give them his blessing that everything they're going to do is going to go well. And then they go from there to Laish, and Laish was not an Israelite city. This is just a city of Gentiles who are living, and this is, importantly to note, not part of the promised land that Israel has given. And this is one of those times I think it's really important when people talk about violence in the Old Testament to remember that just because someone says that the Lord gives his approval doesn't mean that the Lord actually gives his approval, because that's what the priest says, right? But if you don't know this, in the Old Testament, when they're to enter the land, there's to take everything that's theirs. Everyone else is supposed to be given peace first, right, before moving on. And that's what you're supposed to do. But the Danites aren't going to do that. They're scouting this land, and they realize that the people of Laish are very undefended. So they return to their places where they're at, and they tell the others that we should go attack them. They're weak, right? They name all these things that they have and things like that. So they get ready for battle, and they go up and they go to Micah's house first. And the reason they do this is because they know from the spies that this guy has all of these religious things. And if they're going to win, they want to get these things in order to have them as good luck charms, basically. And so they go there, and they greet Micah and the young Levite, and they basically just take everything that's there, right? Micah tries to stop them, but they say, you can't. There's 600 of us. So they take the Levite with them. The Levite is pleased to go because to him, this is like a promotion. He's going from serving a house to serving a whole tribe. This means more sacrifices, more things for him. So he takes all of the stuff and leaves. And so the Danites are now moving, right? They have little children with them, so they're going to actually live at this place. Okay, this is like a migration, conquest type thing. And Micah realizes that everything's gone. He goes out to them with other people from around him, right, to kind of have some muscle, and he gets mad at them, and they basically go, yeah, leave us alone, right? You can't win. if you try and kill us, we're just going to kill all of you. Again, this is Israel fighting itself right here over an idol. Right? So you can see how far things have fallen. So Micah leaves because there's no way he can win. And then they go to the city of Laish, where the people are at peace and undefended, and they level it and they kill everything that's there, right? What does this say? Attack them with the sword and burn down their city. So the city is rebuilt, and the Danites settle there. That becomes their territory again. Who is not supposed to be there, right? That's why the person who's writing this continually says the city used to be called Laish, even though they named it after their ancestor Dan. And they take these idols and they set up them as in a temple or something like that, because they this is what they make, right? And this is the time we get the name of the Levite, and it says Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses. Now, if you read or look, have a Bible in front of you, and you'll see that there's a footnote there. So your Bible might not even say son of Moses. Many Hebrew manuscripts and some of the manuscripts from other translations, like the Septuagint or the Vulgate, so that's the Greek and the Latin translations of the Old Testament, will say son of Manasseh instead of Moses. And scholars think that this is because other people, when they got this text later, because the original one did say Moses, were so scandalized, especially the Jewish readers, but also Christian ones too, that the grandson of Moses could be an idolater, that they actually changed it in order to kind of save face a little bit. But luckily we have the original, so we know that this is Moses. And this goes to show that just because you have good spiritual parentage does not mean that you or your children or your grandchildren are going to be faithful followers of the Lord. That's a tough thing to wrestle with, and a lot of people don't like that idea, but that's something that happens, right? The power of sin is really strong. The power of money, right, and the temptations that brings for this priest are very strong. The idea that we don't pass these things down, that's what's going to happen, right? You don't pass it down, the grandchildren of the greatest of men, of greatest of religious men, aren't going to follow God. And I see this all the time, not with our church necessarily, although I'm sure it has happened. I'm thinking more broadly, right, where I look at people like Aaron Burr, who is the grandson of Jonathan Edwards from American history. Jonathan Edwards is this huge, important thinker, leader of one of the great revitalizations in America back in the 1700s, and his grandson was not like him at all. And so it just goes to show that sin is a powerful thing. And so the Danites keep this idol there until as long as the house of God is in Shiloh, and that takes place, that's as long as that is until Samuel is well into his career as a judge. So it's there for quite a long time that they have this idol. So all this is just to show that this is Israel fighting itself, and they're fighting themselves over an idol, and things are getting worse, and there is no king in Israel. Right? The Lord is not being treated as a king, and they have no king to enforce these important things. So this is going to be a problem. In fact, this city that they set up in Dan, where Laish used to be, ends up becoming later in Judges, or in First Kings, where the kings take over, and some of them don't follow the Lord. One of them sets up a big idol, and there too. So this just ends up becoming a problem as it continues to go. So that's what we talked about today. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow for a new thing. Peace out.